In today's lesson video for day 9.2, we're going to be talking about the area of geometric figures. Okay? When we calculate area, most of you know how to calculate some area of basic shapes. It really depends on the specific shape that we're given, the specific polygon that we're given. And so, in general, area can be calculated by finding a length measurement times a width measurement, okay? And that will always give us an answer that is in square units, okay? And so sometimes we need those units of measure, sometimes they're not given to us, and so you don't have to put those. So we've got some basic formulas for area. If we have a parallelogram or what we call a rectangle, the basic area formula for those is the base measurement times the height measurement, okay? And instead of doing length times width, which we could do length times width for rectangles, the base could be the length, the height here could be the width. But you need to understand that base and height measurements are always perpendicular, okay? The base is always perpendicular to the height. And that upside down capital T just means perpendicular at a right angle. Okay, perpendicular. And so in a rectangle, all four angles are right angles, so we get a right angle there. In a parallelogram, which is kind of like a slanted rectangle, we have the base as one measurement, but the height will always be with this right angle box, okay? So that the slanted sides of a parallelogram are not the height usually. Okay? These dotted lines that are perpendicular to where the base is, those are the height measurements. Okay? Now, if we have this shape, now this didn't turn out very good, so I'm going to redraw this. Okay? If we have a square, all right, where all the sides are the same length, that's a little better. Okay, all the sides are the same length. The area of a square is just side times side, because base and height are both the same, or that side length squared to the second power. So these formulas are really important. You're going to want to make sure you copy these down so that you can use them on your assignment. When it comes time to take the test, you will be given a formula sheet to use, so you don't have to memorize all of these. Okay, for triangles, all right, triangles, that area formula is base times height again, but really it's half of a rectangle. Okay, I could draw a rectangle, and if I have a base measurement and a height measurement, and if I cut that in half and get rid of the 1/2 of that, that gives me a triangle. And so that's why the area formula for a triangle is 1/2 of base times height. You can write it like that, or you could write it as base times height all divided by 2, like that. Okay, either do base times height times 1/2 or base times height divided by 2. It means the same thing. Okay? And that leads us into some newer figures that, or different figures that have a little bit different formulas. The first of those is called a trapezoid. A trapezoid is a four-sided polygon, or a quadrilateral, where there's exactly one pair of parallel opposite sides. Okay, these two lines are parallel to each other here in this trapezoid. Those parallel sides are called bases. Okay, B1 and B2 are the bases. They're the parallel sides. Okay, and then the distance from one base to another is the height measurement. All right, and so our formula for the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 of the base 1, or one of the bases, plus the other base, all times the height. Okay, or you could see it written as area is base 1 plus base 2, you have to add those together still, in parentheses, times the height, all divided by 2. You can do it that way too. Okay? And lastly, for polygons here, we have what is called a regular polygon. Now, we could have any other polygons. If there are 5 sides, we call it a pentagon. 6 sides is a hexagon. 7 sides is a septagon, S-E-P-T-A-G-O-N. 8 sides is octagon, 9 sides is nonagon, 10 sides is decagon, and after that we don't really need to know the special names. But in any regular polygon, no matter how many sides it has, if we use the word regular, we're saying that all the sides are the same. So a regular quadrilateral is a square. A regular triangle is an equilateral triangle. So if all the side lengths are the same, there's actually a unique formula we can use to find the area of a regular polygon. Now you will either be told that it is a regular polygon with the word highlighted there for you. Let's try that again. It'll say regular like that, or it will give you these side markings as congruent. These tick marks in geometry, remember, means that sides, those segments are congruent. So it'll say they're all congruent like that, or it'll tell you it's a regular polygon. There are some things you need to know. S always refers to the side length. Okay, side length. N is the number of sides. And this capital P stands for the perimeter. And the perimeter of any figure is just the sum of all the sides. So in a regular polygon, we have the formula for perimeter that is perimeter equals the side length, S, times the number of sides. Okay? So however many sides there are, multiply by the side length, and you get the perimeter. Then the last thing we need to know is what this little lowercase a is. And if I were to mark the center of a regular polygon, okay, the exact middle, and I were to draw this dotted line directly down to an opposite side here at a right angle, it would actually go right to the midpoint or the middle. Sorry about that. It would go right to the middle of this side at a right angle. This is the word apothem. Looks like apothem, but we pronounce it apothem. And that is just a fancy name for this special segment. And that segment is a unique measurement that we will use. It is the distance from the center to a side at a right angle like this. Okay? It's called the apothem. For this lesson, I will always give you that number because it is part of this area formula. The area formula for a regular polygon is 1/2 of that apothem measurement times the perimeter. Or you might see it as apothem times perimeter all over 2, like that. Okay? Whatever this measurement is here, the apothem, okay, times the perimeter, and you got to find perimeter sometimes by doing the side length times number of sides, then divide that by 2, and you get the area. All right? So for these problems, you just have to be able to recognize what numbers to plug in and use the right formula. Okay? Lastly, we want to talk about circles. Okay? Circles have unique formulas. We will talk about area, and instead of perimeter for circles, we use the word circumference. Okay? The circumference of a circle is this formula, either the value of pi times diameter, and you should remember kind of what pi is. We can say pi is about 3.14, or we can use the pi button on the calculator, and that's more accurate. Either pi times diameter, or since the diameter here, the width from one side of the circle all the way to the other side through the middle, is actually equal to twice the radius. Radius is just from the middle to the side. The other formula for circumference could be 2 pi times radius. So it really just depends which measurement you're given. If you're given diameter, use this one. If you're given radius, use that one. Okay? And then the area formula for a circle is pi times the radius squared, which means we do radius times itself, or radius squared, then we multiply by pi. Remember your order of operations. You have to do exponents before you multiply by pi. Okay, so we need those formulas for a circle. So again, you'll need all these formulas for the assignment today, but you will be given the formulas to use when it's time for the test. So let's practice some of this, okay? So in each of these examples, we want to find the area. In this first example, I'm giving you a triangle. It is a right triangle, but I don't actually give you everything you need, but we can find everything we need. The area formula for a triangle is 1/2 the base measurement times the height measurement. And remember that base is always perpendicular to height. Okay, they're always at a right angle. That means my base is actually this 3 inches, but my height is this other side of the triangle. So what you have to do first is find this height measurement. Okay, so the first step is to use Pythagorean theorem, like we did in the last unit, to find h. H is actually that a value, that other side. So I'm going to say h squared plus 3 squared equals, this is my hypotenuse, c squared. Okay? So let's do some work here. 3 squared is 9. C squared, I don't need to write it as c anymore. I know what it is. It's 5. Okay? 5 squared is 25. Then I subtract 9 from both sides. H squared is 16. And when I take the square root of that, I get that my height is 4. Okay? And that would be in inches. Now we can move on to step 2 and actually find the area using that is my height, that is my base. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base, which is 3, times the height, which is 4. All right, 3 times 4 is 12. And half of 12, or 12 divided by 2, is 6. Square inches is my unit of measure for area. So this triangle has an area of 6 square inches. Okay? Now, number 2, this is a parallelogram. And remember that your formula for the area of a parallelogram is just base times height. And so the base measurement and height measurement are always at a right angle. That means it's very important that we understand this is your base and the 5 centimeters is your height. So I don't need the 7.2 centimeters there unless I were finding perimeter. But since we were supposed to find the area, I just take that base measurement of 12 times the height measurement of 5. 12 times 5 is 60. And I put my units of measure as square centimeters, or centimeters squared. And that's my area. Okay, one more example here. We have a circle where they give me this line across the middle is 16. That means my diameter is 16. Well, in order for area, that formula is pi times radius squared. So you need to remember that the radius is half of the diameter, or diameter is 2 times the radius. So if I want to find the radius, I need to divide that by 2, and the radius is 8 feet. So my area is pi times my radius of 8 squared. So I'm going to do the 8 squared first. 8 squared is 64. Just kind of flip these around. I could actually leave my answer as 64 pi square feet, but we're going to go ahead and round this out with a value used for pi. So we're going to go to our calculator and we're going to type in 64 times the pi button. We're not going to use 3.14. We're actually going to use the pi button on the calculator. We're going to type in 64 times, to find the pi value on these calculators, you're going to look right above this exponent key where it says clear. Right underneath that is my exponent key. And if you look at the top left corner of that, that's your second option for the key. So I hit second, and then it brings up pi like that. Hit enter, and we get about 201 point, we'll round to the first decimal place, so that's going to round to 0.1. Okay, so that's 201.1 square feet. Okay? And so that's how we can use these formulas. So if you have any questions as you're working on this, make sure you're either sending me a message or checking into that Zoom call so we can figure these out. But that is your lesson for 9.2.